They're in a rush. Saudis are in a rush.
Money changes everything.
They get what they want.
Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, Juventus, Barcelona, Madrid. These guys are being governed now. Saudis come to the table and they don't have that. That to me worries me.
Jordan Henderson goes there.
Bit of a hypocrite, right? It's as much overused terminology as sports washing. This is about legitimising the regime. It's about opening up industrial hubs. It's no good Richard Masters running going, we're not worried about it. You need to be worried about it. Welcome to episode 4 of Simon Souness. This week we're going to talk about Middle Eastern money, Saudi, Qatar, what's going on in the world of sport, the globalised challenges. Graeme, Middle Eastern money. You and I...
Well, I've taken it.
Have you?
I worked in Qatar, yeah. I worked in Qatar with Keys and Gray for several years. So I am.
What?
I look at the situation out there. The Middle East has infiltrated every aspect of the British life, from government
to hotels that we own, to Twitter, to everything.
Every part of our society.
To the newspapers. Who owns the Guardian?
Every part of our society. Why would we suddenly reject them and say, no, you can't come into sport?
But do you think, I don't think people are rejecting it. I think people are troubled by it and fearsome of it because it's the financial wealth that these countries have is so significant. If you look like, for example, the Saudi PIF fund, which...
The Sovereign Wealth Fund.
The Sovereign Wealth Fund, which has got 650 billion. 650 billion under management. That kind of money is beyond the level of most people's comprehension, let alone people of significant financial wherewithal. And it's the no hold bar response that worries me. It doesn't worry me. I think the Saudis and the Middle Eastern guys are perfectly entitled to build their leagues and to invest in sport and to enhance sport. But what I'm concerned about is if they do it in a fashion which kills the ecosystem. Because what was the point of having governance in sport? What was the point of trying to get some control back into the finances of sport if all of a sudden the Middle Eastern guys can come along and do precisely what they want?
They're in a rush. Saudis are in a rush. I think they looked at the World Cup in Qatar and went, wow, the kudos that Qatar gained from that, putting them on the map. And we were both there. And what a show they put on. Best World Cup I've been to.
I agreed.
Everything about it was fabulous.
And stadiums and geography.
And all the doubts and fears that people were throwing up prior to that didn't materialise. Yeah. And that was a thoroughly enjoyable World Cup. So Saudis will have been jealous of that. They are the big guys in that part of the world. They're now in a rush. Their foot is on the floor. They want to get there quickly. And
that's fine though, isn't it? But what it can't be allowed to do...
That might impact on our...
Well, that's my point. My point is that, I obviously the media hysteria about how much they spent during the summer for the Saudi Pro League. And it was the XYZ biggest spend, since, it's the second biggest spend in world football behind the Premier League. And I look at it and say, that's fine. I have no problem with them because but if they want to come to the top table and they want to be, arguably, from the football side of things, be part of the conversation in the Champions League, which I don't quite know how they're going to be, but let's just say there's some hodgepodge of ideas that creates a situation where the Saudi teams can compete with the legacy clubs, Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, Juventus, Barcelona, Madrid. These guys are being governed now. They're being governed by some sort of constraints on what you can spend so that there's some sort of order, some sort of control, so that it doesn't depend on individuals. And the Saudis come to the table and they don't have that. That to me worries me.
Yeah, it's so what is their that worries me as well. What is their long-term aim? Their long-term aim is to have they've realised that football, like the family and the advisors to the family in Abu Dhabi realised a long time ago, football is a great vehicle.
Opens doors.
Yeah, it's a great vehicle. It's the most popular sport in the world.
Yeah.
It puts you on the map. And Man City, it's Man City Abu Dhabi, isn't it? They're so closely associated. So
and Newcastle Saudi now, yeah.
So the Saudis will look at that and they see football as a great vehicle to promote the brand. The brand is Saudi Arabia. So I expect nothing to change in that respect. They don't wait. They get what they want. They throw enough money at the problem. They generally get what they want, and it's hard to think of anything they've gone after that they've not managed to achieve. So I expect there to be major problems going forward. They're going to throw that kind of money at it.
Major problems in what way?
Well, I think you look at their league. If they're looking to have a proper league, how can they possibly achieve that other than throwing zillions?
Inordinate amounts of money. Yeah.
You know, when I think is it correct that Steven Gerrard's team had 600 people watching them? How can that dynamic change?
See, I spoke to Robbie Fowler the other day, and he's just come back from there, and he said that's. He said there's teams in that league that are getting 900 fans. He said there's other teams that I couldn't begin to pronounce.
But if there's one team getting 900,
but and he said that as nonsense as well. But he said that there are many games where you're getting 50, 60,000 at, but we're only hearing about. And I get your point. So there's a lot of probably misrepresentation. Do you think the only motivation, and I happen to think it is as much overused terminology, but sports washing. This is about legitimising the regime. It's about opening up industrial hubs so that you can do more business out of it. It's about not worrying so much about what's beneath the surface.
No, this king has opened the doors. I mean, you turn on the telly now, and you see adverts. The Saudi Tourism Board, they're opening their country up.
Yeah.
And they're joining the larger part of society.
So do you think
that can only be a good thing? But in terms of sport,
why is it a good? Do you think are we being a bit pious? Are people being a bit pious? Because every advertiser that advertises a product on the back of football or boxing or cricket or tennis or golf or whatever it is trying to influence somebody. So why is it any different? I suppose for a country that's trying to open up the doors and give itself a different feel.
They're trying to join the rest of the world, like they've never done before. In terms of we want tourists instead of it being a closed door and difficult to get a visa to go into that country. They're encouraging tourists now. They've now joined the most popular sport in the world, which is football, and they're getting household names to go out there. They're in a hurry to get there. They don't have a 25-year plan. They'll want this in the next 5 years. By throwing money at it, and lots of money at it, I'm not sure how they can achieve that. Yeah. But they see the way to achieve things and to again become part of the world society is through football and sport.
Money changes everything.
Jordan Henderson goes there, having been a supporter of the Rainbow cause and
bit of a hypocrite, right?
I think his days are as a top player are behind him.
Gerrard, he's gone to manage a side over there. I don't think he's gone for any other reason than he's getting a ridiculous amount of money, and that's fine. What do you think of these guys? I mean, what do you think of these guys going over there? I don't think the Saudis are going to be a dominant football voice, because the moment, it doesn't make any sense to me. If you're UEFA and if you're FIFA and if you're the Premier League and you invite these guys to the table, then surely at some point you're going to want them to play by the same rules that you're being forced to play at. And the moment you make these guys play by the same rules,
they're not going to compete.
They're not going to compete, because if you're Graeme Souness and you get the same dough in Saudi as you get in Liverpool, you're going to go to Liverpool, aren't you? Mm-hmm. So, what do you think the Saudi Pro League is going to become?
UEFA and FIFA have a history of not bending the rules, changing the rules to.
Well, they're changing for everybody, then, weren't they?
Yeah, to accommodate a more lucrative competition, like more teams.
Yeah,
like that's not more games.
But that's not my problem. My problem in it, if there was a problem, would be that if there's more games and there's more money and everyone's getting more money, yet there's an overall governance, because everyone can get more money, but there's a financial fair play obligation upon you playing in the UEFA Champions League, whoever you are, right? If you're Bayern Munich, if you're Liverpool, if you're Real Madrid, you've got to have a certain level of financial governance over you to play in the Champions League or to play in any tournament. If the Saudis...
Well, they can't take part in that. Financial fair play, they can't take part in that, because if we're correct in saying they want to be there in 5 years' time, to get there in 5 years' time, they have to be outspending everyone to get there. So then, when they've spent all that money and they think they've got teams that could compete with the bigger teams in Europe, Of course they've been breaking rules to get there.
See, I think they should have the latitude, Greg. I think they should be able to, like anyone else building their leagues up, I think they should have a period of time where they're able to spend what they want, and then if they want to compete...
Then they start to join, they have to play by the rules of the organisation.
And then have to play by the rules.
But that's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening.
So then my second part of my observation, because I have mixed emotions about those guys going over there, about the legitimacy of the league, the legitimacy of their choices, the validity of the thinking. Like Gerrard, he's gone to manage a side over there. I don't think he's gone for any other reason than he's getting a ridiculous amount of money, and that's fine. That's fine.
How many other doors would have been open to him? It would have been going into the Championship, maybe
Right.
maybe mid-table Championship.
But that maybe is his level.
Well, he's yet to, I mean, he's desperate to make a career in management.
But do you think going...
I'm with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. That's why he's gone there. He's gone there because he's getting a shed load of money for going there.
But for me...
That's his choice.
But for me, again, I was talking to one of your old Chargers the other day, Robbie Fowler again, same conversation, because he's just come back from managing in the Saudi Pro League, or the league beneath it. And I said to him, I don't know why you think... I don't know if any English Premier League club owners or Championship guys would look at what you've done in Saudi and think that's a gatekeeper or a gateway for you coming back into managing one of their sides.
And how did he respond?
Well, he's got a strange view on his managerial career in terms of what he thinks he's done so far. He's a thoroughly nice lad, by the way.
He's a good lad.
But he's got a slightly distorted view of how he thinks he's done in the jobs that he's done and why he's not being given opportunities over here. He thinks it will be. He thinks that the league is a competitive league and that people will take it very seriously, is the answer.
We accept they want to get there yesterday. The only way to achieve things in a short period of time in football is to throw that much money at it. It's not going to be organic. The only way they can achieve
and make a lot of mistakes along the way
is throw a lot of money at it.
Yeah, which is what Chelsea are doing.
A lot of money at it and get players over there and improve the level. But it can't just be one or two or three teams that are of that standard. You're going to have to, a decent league. And then that would cost lots and lots of money to attract the players over there. So 5, 6, 7 years of that, and they've got a decent standard of a league. And then, this is what you're suggesting, then they join UEFA and be part of, or FIFA, join whatever competition they can get into. Because if you remember, going back to the World Cup, they beat the
Argentinians
on day one. I was doing the game for ITV, and they were fabulous.
Dutch manager, wasn't it? Was it a Dutch manager? Something like that. Swedish
Belgium,
manager, wasn't it?
no?
Swedish? Oh,
Anyway, they got right in the faces of Argentina that day, and that was the first time I've seen any Argentinian team intimidated. They were really aggressive. So slightly digressing. So they have 5, 6 years of spending. They have 4 or 5 really good teams. They then, you're suggesting, have to then join the party and come under some sort of
But
FFP
I'm thinking
rules.
if it's not, it's like turkey's vote for Christmas, isn't it? If you're Liverpool and you're Real Madrid and you're Man United and you're Man City, Man City's a strange phenomenon in this conversation because of their ownership model, and you've got guidelines over you, and all of a sudden they've got none, and you're going to say, come in and be in our hen house.
Yeah.
You can be the fox in the hen house.
Yeah, but who will decide that?
Well, you would think...
Who will decide
Well,
that?
who's decided that financial fair play should exist in the first place? UEFA. Who's made a dog and pony show about it forever and a day? Sefron. You would think there's going to have to be a ridiculous U-turn, unless, of course, that what you believe, and I believe to some extent, is that money changes everything.
Did FFP not come in because some of the big clubs in Europe, historically the big clubs in Europe, demanded that because there was sovereign states behind football clubs?
No. See, I had this conversation with someone who you would know, Rick Parry, who was the intellectual capital behind a lot of things, and obviously the formation of the Premier League. And I said to him, there's this argument going around that the FFP was brought in to maintain the cartel, so that the people at the top never got to be, diluted by clubs that are coming up. But it was really more about sustainability. It was more about the economics, which in some way goes towards your argument, which is when there's new money coming in, it does need a level of control because otherwise it can break the ecosystem. So I think it was a combination of two things. To stop situations like people like me that run out of money because they've got too much ambition and ultimately then cut their own throats because there's no governance, and at the same time protecting the new models where people can just throw as much money as they want. And you know as well as I do, Graeme, that the filter effect of what gets spent at the top drips down to the have-nots, and then the have-nots are finding themselves in terrible situations because the average player salary goes up across the board, right?
But UEFA created the Champions League in its present format because of the big clubs in Europe on day one in the knockout competition, as it previously was.
With more money.
They were losing out. They could lose that first game, so they wanted a guaranteed income. So I
all in association with the broadcasters.
This will be driven by UEFA and FIFA, how they can monetize it.
It'd be fascinating to see if someone like Saudi were to buy someone like Sky, and what that would do to English football.
That would put the cat amongst the
devil. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you were around, would you take a job in the Saudi League? I mean, you didn't want to manage past 2006, but if you were managing now, would you be inclined?
Would I've gone there if I was the Liverpool captain, Jordan Henderson goes there, having been a supporter of the Rainbow cause and
bit of a hypocrite, right?
Yeah, that I find that would have been difficult for me if I'd gone down that road and then had the chance to go there. I don't think I could have done that if I'd been a player coming to my end in this country. Possibly, but at the end of the day, if you've had 6, 7 years, 10 years at the highest level in the Premier League, you will have earned a great deal of money, enough to see your grandkids through their life as well, if you've been semi-intelligent with it. So going up there for a final payday to play in that, again, until it's put in front of me, I don't know.
What about managing there?
Yeah, I think I would have done that. Yeah, I think I would have done that.
Because of the economic returns?
Yeah.
Not because of the challenge of football.
Yeah, but because it's different. For me, I played at a time where we were well paid. 84, I was arguably the best.
But this is astronomical stuff.
Yeah, Kenny and I were the best players in the country at that time. And we were getting maybe 12 times the average man's wage. And today, that's not life-changing money. It was great money, but not life-changing money. And today they're getting 500 or 600 times the average man's wage. So I suppose, if I'd been offered a manager's job 5 years ago, I would have possibly said yes to it for the kind of money that I hear is going around in Saudi Arabia, which is enormous.
You think Henderson? I think Henderson's a hypocrite, and I think the only reason I think he's a hypocrite is because I don't like people that say things that don't have any skin in the game. It's really easy. The England players didn't want to take a yellow card in the World Cup, but wanted to make a lot of noise about which particular thing they supported. Do you think he can play in that league? Do you think top players can play in a league which is a substandard league? Because it is a substandard league. Like the Chinese league was a substandard league. And it was just used to weaponise agents getting more money out of clubs for players that can go to China, they can go to Saudi. That's the thing about it I don't like, because it gets used by people to be able to jack everything up for everybody else. Do you think Henderson can play in that league and legitimately have a case for being in an England side? Besides favouritism from his manager?
Well, he would appear to be a good type around the place. I think his days are as a top player are behind him. So I'll tell you again my story, how I would answer that, thinking about it. I was playing here in England, European Cup winner, went in '84 to play in Italy, there 3 months. And I came back and asked if I could train at Liverpool. And running around said, yeah, we're actually on Anfield today. And we had a game, so we did our bit of running. We had an 8-sided game across the pitch at the Anfield Road end. So it wasn't like a tight 6-a-side game. It was 8. And in those 3 months, I'd gone from a player that would have played in those games at Liverpool and had as many touches as anybody else, to 3 months in Italy coming back to play in that game, couldn't get a kick of the ball. Everything was happening too quickly for me. I'd become in Italy, because in Italy, the teams, for midfield players, it was easy. They would drop off to the 18-yard lines, which gave midfield players all the time you needed. And if you could pass the ball, it was a doddle playing there. Where in England, they were pressing you. It was more difficult to play in. So the point I want to make is in 3 months, I'd slowed down. So
you're making a case for the fact that he's not playing in top-level football.
Yeah.
He can't play in this tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have we come to a conclusion? Middle Eastern money, good thing in sport. I don't like what it's doing in boxing because I think it's dividing us and only making big fights happen. But as a rule, do you think Middle Eastern money in sport, good thing?
I'm going to sit on the fence with it. I think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And it's how the decision makers deal with it.
I think you're right.
I think it's going to be a very interesting watch, and it's how FIFA and UEFA deal with it, and ultimately Premier League deal with it. But I think
and they should be nervous. The Premier League. It's no good Richard Masters running going, we're not worried about it. You need to be worried about it.
Yeah.
I think most of the sensible Premier League club owners think there's something they should be worried about.
See, I think that youngish player, I think he was 25 from Wolves, went over there.
Neves,
and he's a really good player. He's gone with the next 3 or 4 years been the best years of his career, and he's chosen to go there.
A bit like Oscar when he went from Chelsea to China, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, to be a bloody footballer, eh?
Great time.
Right, that's it for episode 4 of Simon and Souness. Thanks for watching.